Okay, so we'll start with the usual stretching, a little bit of opening up. Again, as the days become cooler, be careful with the stretching. If your body's not warm at the moment, hopefully it is, but if it's not, please take care with the opening. So actually we're going to start just with some tapping today. So the tapping begins. Round the head, just to wake the body up. Very gently. Back of the neck, the occiput. And then we just go through and just stick the fingers into the base of the occiput, and or you could massage that. And we'll take one hand and just either go into this area, so we're just manipulating it with the fingers. It will probably be a little bit ouchy, and you can move the shoulder around, or you can tap, depends how much flexibility you've got in the arm, and the other side releasing the top of the shoulder. And then we'll go to tap the thymus gland to help the production of T cells. And then the lungs, chest area. Very gently, you can cross the body like this or do both at the same time. And we go down the inside of the arm with a very, very loose fist, up the outside, just a few times. Okay, and then coming down to this area, you can massage very gently, or you can gently tap, as long as there's no pain. We go up the right hand side, as you look down, up your right hand side and down your left hand side, that direction. Or if that feels better, just like this, coming round to the lower back and just rubbing the kidneys round like this. You can lean over to open up the back and the sacrum, sacral rub, and then we can start to tap the buttock area. You can bend over to do it if it helps. And tapping down the outside of the legs. Up the inside with open palms. So loose fists coming down. Palms coming up. Going to slap the back of the knees. Continue down. And just brush. Have a bit of a shake. As if you're shaking all the tension down into the legs, into the earth. And doing some exhaling, you can even do an audible exhale to release. And should feel that's woken the energy up. So lifting the sky. Coming down. Feel that opening of the whole length of the body. And coming into the shoulders, going to roll the shoulders as fully as possible. Really get in there. Feel the opening. And then take it into a bigger stretch with the arms opening. And back the other way with the larger movement. This one's less important because most of us kind of slump more than we do opening. Let the shoulders relax as we let the arms swing, take it down. So you can do this as vigorously or as gently as you like. Okay, so neck stretches, these are quite important because we don't do them very often, do we, the neck stretch. So rotating, I'll just rotate and look with your eyes looking behind to get a bit of a stretch on the eyes, and then the other side. And just engage with the muscles with your mind. So you're really getting into the muscles. Please don't overstretch. And then just let the ear drop to the shoulder and engage down here. Breathe in, hold the breath, breathe out and soften this area as we breathe out. So we'll do that again. Breathing in, postman's here. Do you want to keep doing that? I'm just going to get the door. Lovely, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. So sorry about that. That was a special delivery, and so presumably you've done that on both sides now, so we can get back to what do we do next? I'll just check my side bend. So just relax down and let the arm go until this engages here. Then get a bit of a lead. Be very careful with this if you've got back problems. So you're engaging slightly further into the back. Now you're engaging the lower back, and now engaging here, back to the side bend. If it's painful, ease off. Can you see it's not a hip rotation, it's an engagement with this area and the lower back. So we're just stretching those muscles. If you prefer just to do a side bend like this, absolutely fine. You can also add the rotation if it's comfortable. And we'll take that into a side stretch. Okay, so this hip rotation is really for the joints rather than the muscles. It's to kind of lubricate the ball and socket joints where the leg, the femur meets the pelvis. Do a quite big rotation if you like. Good, and then leg stretches. So some people keep the heel up when they do this and tilt the body. You get a better stretch on the calf if you put the heel down, but play around with it. Please don't do anything, and keep this knee not going over the toes. So it's a good support. So you can either keep the heel up or place the heel down, and you've got a good support with the knee not being strained. And hamstring stretch, fairly straightforward. We'll just drop the knees. Okay, so just warming up the ankles, also practicing our balance. If you find it easy to circle them, try a figure of 8. And if you find that easy, close your eyes and do it. But careful you don't knock into some furniture. You can do the ankles at the wrists at the same time if you like. Now I'm going to feel the back, keep the knees off lock and hang at whichever height is most comfortable. Breathe and release the muscles. Feel the body lengthening naturally with gravity. And just keep breathing and releasing until the body opens naturally. We're not forcing anything to happen. You can grab your toes or put the hands on the floor if you're very supple. And then pushing up or pulling up, lengthening the spine as we do so. And then a counter stretch, supporting. Again, listen to what's comfortable. Every nuance of movement we're aware of, so we don't overdo it. Good. Okay, then we're ready. So this is where I'm going to grab my dining chair. It'll only be for 30 seconds, so don't worry if you don't have one. Now, the theme today, it's a little bit of lead-in, is the KUA. Okay, now the KUA, spelled K-U-A, but you may say it K-W-A, is this region here. We can call it the bikini line, and it's internal within here. So this is the area we're referring to. Now, when we, sorry about that, the rule is do not squat when you do Qigong, sit. So sit, don't squat, basically. Now, when you squat, if you squat now in a normal way, feel where the muscles are engaging. Feel in your body as you squat down, which muscles are engaging. Here, right? Really quite tight here. So if you come up from the hips, so come up and down, engaging these muscles, squatting and pushing up from here. It's very tense, yeah? And that's why, as you get older, these muscles get stiffer and stiffer. And when we get out of a chair, when we get past 50 odd, what do? Oh, you know, that's the noise that people make. Now in Tai Chi, we sit as if we're going to sit on a chair. So when you sit on a chair, I don't want you to squat into the chair. Just lower yourself into the chair and see if these muscles are engaging. They shouldn't be. There's no muscles here engaging. It's coming from the KUA. Now come up from here, sit from here. And you don't need to go, oh, when you get out your chair, because it's all coming from here. These muscles will become more and more relaxed. If you haven't got a chair handy, practice that later. So the rule is do not squat, sit. So let's practice that without the chair being there. So it's obviously the chair's height, like a bar stool. Sit onto the bar stool, relax the KUA, sit into the KUA, and then come up from the KUA. But imagine you're being lifted by a thread. So sit down with the pelvis, rise up, head suspended, and there's no tension here. It feels really nice because there's no muscle engagement here. Okay, and that's the rule. So this is what we call sitting into the KUA. Now let's add some arms. Sinking, pelvis leads as we sit into the KUA. Head suspended, and make sure there's no engagement in the muscles of the buttocks or the hip area. It's like coming up and down from the KUA. Effortless. tension free. No squatting. Obviously from a side view, the knees, we need to protect our knees, so we sit back as if we're perching on a bar stool, and the knees should not, that was a little bit low, the knees should only go to about here. Let's make the movement a little bit more complex now. I'm going to let the arms come out to about this height, and then sit into the KUA and compress the balloon in front here. So sideways on, hands, elbows slightly forward, and sit, compress inside your body, not on the outside. Soften the KUA, the chi will drop into dantian, and it feels like there's a compression within the dantian, inside the body. And if you're doing it correctly, there'll be no tension in your buttocks and your hips. There doesn't need to be. Good. Nice. Now then, going to add a little bit more movement with the arms, and let them float up, shoulders down, and we're at our highest point. We don't lock the knees, the hands quite high. Are your buttocks and your hips relaxed now? And then sit into the KUA as if you're sitting, perching on a bar stool, effortlessly. Don't squat into it, and then rise up. The KUA, and the head is lifted by the crown, and the KUA comes up. The pelvis sinks, sacrum tucked, and all the while we're noticing whether these muscles in our buttocks and our hips are engaging, and if they are, it means we're not using the KUA. Should feel much more relaxed, much more effortless, and much more pleasant in the hip area, especially in the back of the hips. So keep releasing here, so that the hips, the chi sinks. If we don't relax the KUA, the chi can't sink. Good. Now we're going to do the breathing, 4 directions, focusing on moving from the KUA. So release into the KUA. Let the head be lifted. If you can't remember which direction to go, it doesn't matter. So release into the KUA, sink, come up from the KUA. Release into the KUA. And if your muscles do engage, that's okay, just be aware of it. These habits take a long time to undo. So if you've got a habit of holding on in your hips and your buttocks, that may still be there for a while. But just practice releasing from here and sitting on the bar stool. Really releasing, softening the KUA. You might find there's more tension on the way up than on the way down. It's easy to sink and relax the KUA on the way down. A little bit more challenging coming up from the KUA. A new way of using the body. Good. Now up and down, coming up in height here, sinking into the KUA. Focusing on the buttocks and the hip area remaining completely soft and relaxed throughout the movement. So this is up and down. We're going to be exploring side to side movements, folding the KUA, and also forward and back movements, but this is an up and down movement. Now, one of the best up and down movements to explore releasing here is open door 5, master locks, open door 5. When I first used to send in videos of the open door 5, I used to squat and it was solid here. I can remember holding on because it's quite a new way of moving, and I was really solid. And he just said, you know, the chi's not doing anything, it's stuck in the hip area. There's no KUA, there's no sinking. So let's do our open door 5, focusing on the sinking and releasing here, which will create a softness and a release in the sacrum and the lower back. So here we are, the hands are at the KUA, which reminds us to sink and to release. Coming up in height, sink into the KUA. Coming up in height from the KUA, release slowly into the KUA. Coming up in height. Careful not to tense up in the hips, soften the hips here. Not too high. Release into the KUA. Sit on the bar stool. Now here, a little bit more. There's a folding in the back, an opening in the back. And you do kind of look down. I look at the camera because I'm trying to look at what you're doing. But look down, so the back is curved. So it is curved. It's not a straight back. And then from the KUA, pushing forward, sink into the KUA. Come up a little bit here. Hands go forwards and then come back. And we can really sink into the KUA. And really let everything go. No muscle engagement here. Good. So did that work for you? Did you manage to just give me a thumbs up if that worked for you, those that I can see? Right, we'll do it again so you get that experience again. This time I'll do it from the side so you can see the arm movements from the side. So make sure no muscle engagement here as we sit. Here's the bar stool, we're just perching on it. Release everything here and the hands come up in height a little bit. Inhale. exhale. Slowly releasing into the KUA. And if you have a look here at what the curving of the body round, softening, hands come forward, back towards the sides, and we sink, relax the KUA. Now those of you who are quite perspective can see there's a slight incline in my spine, and that is supposed to be there. That's not wrong. If I straighten my spine up like this, my spine's actually being compressed by gravity. So there's a slight coming forward, slight tilt, just to take. You can feel that in your own body. If you sit back like this, you can feel your spine's being compressed. The bones are stacking, and they're squashing everything down. So slightly incline is good. We'll do it one more time. For those of you who are taking longer than me, that's fine. Just do it in your own time. Focus on releasing into here when we slowly sink and disengaging all these muscles round about here. We'll begin. Check the back of the body, completely released. So we try and you use this when you sit up and down from a chair. Try and sit up from here, sink from here, and keep these muscles released. And we won't have that kind of armoring and stiffness in our hips that makes it so unpleasant as we get older. Now the KUA is also relevant, perhaps even more relevant, when we rotate. So the knees stay in line with the toes, and if you don't mind, you don't have to put a hand here, but if you were to put a hand here and just rotate and keep the sacrum dropping down, you'll fold into this groove, folds, and you'll fold into the palm that you've got there, and the other one will be open. Okay, and then you rotate with a straight back. Don't let this knee collapse, keep it out, and this is open, and this is folded, this is closed. So this is what folding the KUA means when we say it in Tai Chi. It's hugely important. So now as you're doing this, have you got these muscles engaging? probably to some degree you do, because it's habitual and there's probably, you know, prolonged tension there from, so don't worry if you feel that you can't release and disengage these muscles. So let's add an arm movement. It'll take time, but it's just a new awareness. One core is folding, the other core is opening, and the knees are not collapsing. They're our support. Don't over rotate, but just feel the difference between the two sides. If you can, relax the buttocks, relax the hips consciously, then that's great. Soften into the core. So it shouldn't feel stiff, it should feel like it's emptying. When it folds, it empties and relaxes in. There's no resistance there when it folds. So it's quite technical, but it is very important for keeping the hips released and for moving chi around. Now, the other big movement that involves folding the core side to side is cloud hands. So see how your cloud hands is with this releasing and folding on one side and opening on the other. You can take a wider stance if that helps. So it's hard, isn't it? It's not an easy thing to do, to release deeply into these grooves and keep the bottom relaxed and the hips relaxed. It's not an easy thing to do. But over time, it becomes easier with attention and practice. And you may be aware of the stiffness in the body, but you know, just stay with it. Don't think it's a bad thing to have stiffness in your hips. It's better to be aware of it than be not aware of it, because then we can focus on releasing. Good. You can shift weight. It's more of a challenge. If you've got arthritis in your ankles, better to shift weight for some. Good, so let's okay, good. Get some release. Release the legs. Now, we're going to take a bow stance and see what happens with the core in a bow stance. Now, we're just going to keep the feet glued to the floor. Don't lock this back knee. Keep it, if you look at the back knee, always goes over the toes. So if you look, you bring your weight forward so that you can always see the end of your toe, just the top of your toe. So there's no rotation here. I mean, there are exercises where you rotate, but this is a fold, releasing, and a releasing and a fold. So relax here into this groove, fold here. And you see there's no engagement of the muscles in the back side at all. So let's take a simple arm movement, but really we're focusing on what's happening in the core, softening, releasing. And when you do release it, you feel everything sink down into your root. If you tense everything up now, just tense up your backside, tense up your muscles here. Can you feel that everything's lifted, everything's up? You can't relax down, you can't sink the chi. So relax the hips. And it's so much, it's like a big relief when you can drop and sink everything down. And it all comes from releasing in here, softening the buttocks. If your legs are tired, you can lift the heel and lift the toes. It takes a little bit of the stiffness away if you are a bit stiff in your hips and your legs this morning. Let's try the other side. Just start with the feeling of softening and releasing and sinking. Everything sinks down into the ground effortlessly. Folding, folding. There's no rotation. So when you come forward, you see from the knee, it's exactly, the lower leg is exactly straight, upright. It's not going like this or like this. So it's quite technical, but it is worth it to get the relaxation working and the chi sinking. Good, we'll swap again. Roll the ball. Keep experiencing. Releasing here, releasing the backside. The sacrum is relaxing down. In the lower back. And we're still focusing on this region as we swap the legs. Folding, opening. Folding, sinking, opening. Sink and release into the core. Relaxing the buttocks and the hip area. Good. So we'll come back to a still point and just stand in neutral and feel. I'm going to do a standing posture now, or a sitting posture if you prefer, and see how the core feels when we're stationary. So this area, we sit into it, we release all the muscles here. There's slight incline to the spine so that you're not stacking the weight on top. If you lean back, you'll feel you're stacking the weight. Move to there, the spine releases, and the bones should float up, particularly in the upper body. So the spine should feel like it's floating up. The flesh relaxes down. So take an arm posture. It can be whatever you want. I'm going to do this one. And feel your bones, particularly in the upper body, you'll feel it. They're quite buoyant, they're floating upwards. There's a pulling up of the crown But the flesh, just everything that's not bone, is releasing down a bit like, think about or you feel like a big overcoat. I know the arms are up, but an overcoat placed on a strong hanger, everything just releases down, and that's what the flesh feels like. So just feel like your flesh is just going down with gravity around the frame, around the shoulder girdle. Now, are you holding on? Are you engaging here? If you are, the chi can't sink. There's an upward lift. So release. And the chi will go into the root. You don't want to pull the tailbone under. That again would cause tension. But just open Ming Men and relax the buttocks. Get a feeling for your bones opening in an upwards direction, particularly the spine. But the tailbone is being released downwards. So it's being lengthened actually in both directions. And if you're feeling the spine is stacking, means you're too far back. You need to take the weight off the spine. And just pay attention to which part of your body tenses up. And just accept that. Accept that certain holding on will take place, because it does habitually. Just pay attention to it, and it may release simply by being aware and placing our awareness there. So now we're feeling a bit taller because there's a sense of upward lift, but we're also feeling very rooted into the ground. So you could get the sense of being elongated up towards the top of the sky and down to the center of the earth. Energy has been elongated. And then open up widthways. So expand, so the shoulders open internally and the hips open laterally. Good. Okay. Really relaxed. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of uplifting exercise, so you can feel a deep root, but also, so what happens when we lift our toes? Do we tense the buttocks? When we lift our heels rather, do we tense the buttocks? Hopefully not. Can we release into the KUA? Remember the knees, don't push the knees forward, sit back on the bar stool. Don't bend the knees too much. You should be able to see your toes. Sink into the KUA. Keep the buttocks and the lower back relaxed. Sink. So we're challenging ourselves to, the centre of gravity is going much higher now on the way up. Head is being lifted by the thread. So your spine feels lengthened all the time. Head suspended here, and then let the pelvis sink and the tailbone drop to the ground, towards the ground. Releasing deep into the groin area. Okay, so we'll do a balancing. Again, are these muscles engaging? If they are, then we need to get the sense of the knee being lifted by the palm. So we're not lifting from here, we're not kind of using our muscles to lift. There's just a gentle raising, and there's no tension in the buttocks or the hips. So let's get a bit of a spring. And again, you can just disengage all these muscles so that the chi feels like it's bouncing up. I mean, you can even do the action with two palms, the chi bouncing up from the earth. It's not getting stuck here. And you feel the difference that the relaxation makes, both in the chi rising and the chi sinking. So let's do that. Sinking, releasing. It's coming down from the heavens. It's not getting stuck in the hips. Release the core. It's coming up from the earth. It's not getting stuck in the hips. Again, it's a work in progress. If you've got a lot of arthritis and stiffness in the hips, it's a work in progress, but over time, the muscles will relax more and more just by being aware. Good. Now, closing. Try not to tense up the lower back or the buttocks. Release into the core. One more repetition. Everything releasing still. We'll do a little bit of rocking, swaying. Again, if you sway too far, everything will tense up. So keep it within a comfortable range. Exhaling forward. Inhaling back, and see if you can do the swaying without tensing muscles. So just stay within, particularly the hips and the buttocks. And it is a challenge. Breathe into the belly. Come to a still point. Good. So we're going to be exploring the same thing in the Phoenix step, in the Phoenix arm movements. Going to be exploring the same quality of movement in the Phoenix movements now. So do stay with us, even if you haven't done them before. I think it's only Colin who hasn't done them before. We'll go through it quite slowly, so you may pick something up, but if you've got to go now, that's fine. I'll just say thank you if you have to go now for any reason. I'm just going to clear something from my screen, which is obliterating some of the view. Okay, so the stance in the Phoenix Qigong is, the more advanced you get, the wider it goes. and it's a 50-50 weight. Apparently it's more like a wushu stance, but I don't know much about that, but that's how it is. So it's a wider stance, and it's 50-50, and the knees do not collapse in. The knees remain in line with the toes, so it's quite a challenge to open these areas up. They may be very stiff. You may have to do some, some kind of stretches like this to kind of open your core. One good stretch is just to rotate and just make sure this knee pushes out. Now, I don't want you to hurt yourself, obviously, but rotate and just push this knee out. If it's very stiff here, then just encourage it to open up by pressing that knee away. So that's a very basic stretch you can do. So the first movements, same as the open door 5. We'll just go through those. Okay, and this is where it differs from the open door 5. And rotate. Now, be careful. Don't turn your hips, sink into the core, release. And if you're facing the left, left hand's on top. If you're facing the right, right hand's on top. Hands on the midline, dantian. Now watch this knee. This is the temptation, isn't it? We've got to open up. It's hard work. It will really build up these muscles, these VMO muscles. Sink, release the core, rotate. Now, be very aware of your other core folding, but we're not engaging the backside. And it is a challenge. Don't engage the muscles in your backside. Fold the core. And it's hard work, isn't it? It's hard work on the legs, but it will build up a lot of strength and a lot of relaxation in the hips. Second move, rotate the balloon and turn the waist simultaneously and compress. Now stay in your core. Here it's folded. Going to rotate and fold the other one, release, and see if you're engaging these muscles. It's very tempting, isn't it, to engage those muscles. We don't want to. So don't worry if you can't turn very much. It's fine, that's normal. Compress, release into the core, rotate and engage and fold the other one. So just play with that a little bit. It's a big challenge. Particularly keeping the hips relaxed is a big challenge in the backside. But we don't want to do it with our muscles. We want to do it with the core. Okay, good. Now, sun and moon rotation. Now, if you're not careful, you over rotate and the knee collapses. So try not to over rotate. Just fold the core as much as you can. Want the knees to still point outwards. And disengage the muscles in your backside. Try not to take your mind off the core, because then you'll start, what will happen is you'll start doing the movement with your hips like this. You'll start to do just with the, you'll start to rotate the whole of the hips, and that's not right. So it's, oh, I've lost the movement now, I'm so sorry, I'll get it back. So don't just rotate your hips, fold in here, fold in here. It's a whole different way of moving. It really opens up the hip area and it really moves the chi more effectively. Now we get, thank goodness, to rotate and we get a little bit of movement in the legs because they're probably feeling quite stiff. So don't bring your elbow further back than the side of your body here. Just point the fingers back. So these fingers are pointing back. Now they're pointing towards the ear. I'm hugging a balloon. Expand. Don't bring your elbow back. Rotate the wrist and the elbow. As soon as you bring your elbow too far back, let's do it. Let's do the wrong thing, firstly. It brings your scapula, feel your elbow coming back, feel your scapula. It's all out of alignment. The chi won't drop because your scapula is all twisted up. So you want to keep your scapula relaxing down here. And then once you've got that happening, fold the KUA. And it is tricky, so be kind to yourselves. Don't expect miracles. It's a work in progress. Just try and keep the butt, the backside, released. So the weight drops into the legs, drops down through the legs. You'll have super strong legs, which some of you already have. Feel your scapulae releasing down. Good, next movement. I'm doing that a little bit fast. Let's slow it down. Now, foot position. There's a little bit of a rotation. See, my knee moves a little bit too much there, but I'm working on it. And then sink and relax the KUA. Both KUA, this one's folded. Sink down so the chi sinks. If you're all tight, tense up your buttocks, tense up and do that and think, oh gosh, no, the chi's stuck, everything's up, isn't it? Can't release. Let's do the other side. Rotate a little bit and sink into the KUA. Release. You can really feel it, can't you? Release the KUA. We'll do it one more time. Good. So if your legs are feeling a little bit, we'll just take a break there to get some, give the legs a bit of a break because it's hard work. When you really focus on a wide stance and folding the KUA, it is hard work. You can just tap, lift her and tap. Sometimes makes them feel a little bit better. Good. Right, and shake out any tension. Just do a nice stretch for the lower back. So we'll go on to, we got as far as sinking the chi, releasing, sinking. Next one. You sort of pull down a little bit, but not with muscle, just with attention towards the kidneys. And then check what's happening. This is folding, isn't it? This is releasing here. The knees are still pointing out, haven't collapsed in. Let's do that again. Now the hand, not the outside hand, but the inner hand rises up. It's my right hand, is probably your left hand. Actually, on the first one, they both come up together, so it's easier the first one. And then the upper hand Your left hand's probably closer. Come down, rotate, sink. Okay, so we'll do that again. Well, we have to do the other side, don't we? So it's a different connecting movement. So the hand comes up. This hand faces the rear of the hand and comes down the ring finger side. Swing the feet, be aware of the KUA, relax into the KUA. So there's an awful lot to be aware of, which is always the case with Qigong. So your feet can move to a comfortable position. They're not set. So if you want to bring the foot round, sink into the KUA. Sit down, don't squat. So if you're perching on a bar stool with your tip of your bottom here. So don't squat, sit and release into the KUA. I have to say that I was never taught this by any of my teachers in London, and or actually, well, for most of my time in Newcastle. So I'm fairly new to this KUA stuff, and it's still very much a work in progress for me. So take it easy. Right, good. Release. And here, so your center of gravity is now here. We're going to sink the center of gravity down by releasing into the KUA. And you'll feel everything drop and release down. If you're holding on here, try and release as much as possible, but be kind to yourself. Center of gravity is up here, level with the hands. You drop the center of gravity down, releasing the KUA. Feel it in your body. Everything sinks very noticeably. It's probably one of the easiest ones to experience the difference. So if you do the wrong thing, okay, do the wrong thing and tense up your buttocks now and sink. You see, everything gets stuck. There's an uplift in your body, isn't there, from here, if you tense your buttocks, and you cannot sink the chi. So it quite often helps to do the wrong thing. So do the right thing now. And relax into the KUA. One more. Well done. Okay. If you need to move the legs a little bit, we'll go on in a minute to the next movement. Rotate, pick up the foot, turn it. Now we're going to fold into this KUA. I won't say right or left because you're doing the opposite to me. And then fold into this KUA. Okay, and this one's really open. And then releasing both KUA in the final position. So there's a nice roundedness in the legs now. Now the fist forms, this pierces up, swing the foot, and we're folding into the other KUA. You'll feel which one's folding and this one's opening. I know it's confusing to have to do the arms and the legs together, but more importantly today is to get the KUA. So fold fist first, pierce, connect here, pull, fist, pierce, rotate, pull. Now focusing on the KUA at the same time, fist, pierce, KUA. Fist, pierce up. And are you tensing your buttocks? Let's have a feel. release them. Good. Go back in a second. Next movement, doesn't matter which way you ended up. We ended up with our feet like that, didn't we? So you'll need to bring the feet to this position for the next movement. Now, can you feel what's happening here? We're not turning our hips like this because that would create foot coming in. We're releasing deep into this groove and keeping the legs in pretty much the same position. So I'll do that again so you can feel that. Release the hip area, release into the quad. Don't sink the knee like this. And fold the other quad here. Release into that one, soften the buttocks. It's a big stretch on the thighs as well, and we'll do that again. One more time, feel the folding, releasing. Good. Now we do the other side, so we have to do a swimming dragon, fold the quad, and then that's the changeover. Watch this knee. And just pay attention to your buttocks, releasing them, soften into the quad. It's not going to be perfect, it's not within my body. I can still feel some tension in the hips because I'm working on it over time. I wish someone had taught me this 20 years ago, but they didn't. Good. Swimming dragon. Done loads of them, haven't I? Never mind, let's just come round. Now, release into the quads, disengage all these muscles in the backside. Sacrum should feel like it's just being pulled slightly under, tip of the tail, but don't kind of deliberately pull the tip of the tail under because that will create tension. Release into the quad. If you don't want to lift the foot, it's fine. Same hand forms the fist as the leg. Sink into the quad. And rotate. Oh no, done it wrong, sorry. Step back, do the other side. My apologies. Now, release everything here. Don't pull your tip of your tail under because it will create tension, but just have a feel of it like there's a string attached to your fingers which are just encouraging the tailbone under a little bit. But if you start to tense, it's too much. On the fist, same side. Not too worried about what the arms are doing today. We're just getting used to sitting into the quad, which means all this is released. Sitting into the quad, rotating from the quad. And we've done lots of practice on this today. Folding into the quad, releasing into the quad. So you're not swinging the knees. You may not turn as much. See, if I was doing it from the hips, if I was just doing it from the hips, there'd be a much more obvious turn. My knees would swing like this. And that's how I was taught to do it incorrectly by my teachers in London. But I'm not doing that. So you'll see less, but there's much more internal work going on releasing internally, and the chi is working, is circulating more effectively. So less is more in this case. Good. Now I'm not going to go the whole way through. I'm sorry there's been less flow and it's been quite hard work. It's been quite a technical class, but just so you understand how important it is, and the phrase to remember is don't squat. So if you do a squat now, oh, these muscles, you know, and it is a, oh, you make that sort of sound, don't you? Oh, when you go down, you can hear people do it, older people do it. And now drop, just relax into that and sit and come up from here. And there's no strain, there's no effort. So it's don't squat, sit like you're sitting on a bar stool, and the bar stool, you're totally 100% confident that the bar stool is going to take your weight. That's the issue. So when you squat, you've got nothing beneath you. You have to hold on, don't you? Otherwise you're going to fall flat on your face and, you know, feel a bit silly. But if there's a stool there or a chair, you can be 100% sure if it's, you know, it's just going to take your weight. If it looks a bit flimsy, obviously not, but most chairs will confidently take our weight. And so we just give up and, you know, give up the holding. Sit and trust that you don't need to hold. And that's the lesson today is really all about that within your form. And keep working on that. Let's stand. If you've got tension, which is a little bit likely, shake out. And just feel when you stand, release, disengage all the hip area. We'll do the closing from here. So it's quite a workout when you use your core. Mind is calm, body's relaxed, and just feel this is nice and open, nice and relaxed. Good. Let's get a little bit of feedback now at the end for those of you who are on Zoom live. I'll switch onto the gallery and have a chat, see what you made of that. If you're watching it on replay, thank you. This is the last one in September, so see you on Thursday with the new Zoom codes, which I'm sending out this afternoon. So I'll just stop the recording